So what we'd like to do first with the panel, and Preston, as you've already, let's say, introduced yourself, maybe Michał, we'll start with you, introduce yourself and your company, and we'll just kick it off from there. Yeah, everyone will introduce themselves. I know we did it once already, but we'll start it again for the panel.
Okay. Good morning. Michał Samborski. I'm representing Panatoni. We are providing everything connected with the industrial space, starting from the typical warehousing through the logistic, last mile, e-commerce, service space, typical warehouses and production space.
Okay, great. And Anya, I think everyone has a microphone, yeah? So
we're happy to share.
Okay, we don't want to give one to Preston anyway. That's enough for him.
Okay, so firstly, I'd like to say that Preston's presentation was absolutely eye-opening, because as a landlord, I don't think we've ever thought about that or considered that as a risk. It's more with the operator or the logistic operator, but there are some potential consequences also PR-wise and reputation-wise for the big funds
right.
like ours. So thank you for that. Yes, Invesco is very active in the logistics space. Actually, in Europe, roughly 30% of our portfolio sits in the logistics. In the region, we work mainly with the partners, doing quite a lot of developments, taking also the speculative risk very often when the partner is reputable. And at the moment, we are in the process of construction of a last mile logistic portfolio. We have also acquired a large lot size in the Czech Republic near the airport. So we're developing a huge 100,000 square meter logistic facility there. We believe very much in the logistics sector as such, especially last mile urban logistic, which is now the trend across Europe. And I'm quite positive about the market.
Great, thank you. And Ania?
Anna Misztal, dzień dobry jeszcze raz Państwu. Project and Program Management Director w Baltic Hub. Firma niedawno przeszła rebranding. Państwo być może znacie nas pod poprzednią nazwą DCT Gdańsk. Spółka zlokalizowana w porcie w Gdańsku. Kontener terminalowy największy na Bałtyku. Sorry for Polish.
Okay.
So once more, Project and Program Management Director in Baltic Hub. You most probably know us still under the former name DCT Gdańsk. Polish biggest container terminal, also biggest in the Baltic, located in Port of Gdańsk. After the previous presentations, I'm now very happy to have customs and border guards on site. It will make me sleep even better at night. So our company was founded in 2004. In 2007, we've opened our first deep water quay at the terminal. Then next stage of the development was opening of second deep water berth, T2, which happened in 2017. And now we are in the process of developing third large vessel berth. And the few hectares of storage area that will allow bring more cargo to Poland. Thank you.
Right, great. And so, well, it sounds like it's going. And Preston, of course, if you want to say a couple words here, just to
round off. I've already said some serious
stuff on the panel. Yeah.
Well, you guys already know me, Preston Smith, CDDI, and I could add more, but I'm not going to right now.
So Anna Misztal, why don't we start with you on the Baltic Hub, and just how do you see business changing or logistics improving? Is there any difference, or is there any new clients, let's say because of the war, things happening because of that? Is your port becoming more, let's say more, when I'm talking to a lot of the military logistics, they're like, look, the ports are the most important. And how has that changed your business?
The change is, of course, visible. We have a change connected with pandemic when we were really looking at the change of flows of cargo and stoppages to the flows of cargo. Now with the Ukraine war, of course, the closing of Russian market, which we also observed as a downturn in the volumes. Right
Mhm.
now, there is an uptick, and as we say, the cargo will find its way, and this is what is happening on the market. With the new trends, I believe now the ESG and CO2 reduction will be one of the biggest trends which we also see from the shipping lines. That there is a need to support them with the solutions that will decrease the amount of CO2, which, for example, is putting more containers on rail than on roads. With what you've touched upon about the military and special project cargos, they are also visible here in Poland, and they were here before the war. But now I think we are seeing the increase in requests or ideas around that.
Okay. And Anya Duvnovska, just talking about investment and what what Invesco's targeting. What are the countries you're looking, or what are let's say the hot countries or the hot locations for investment at the moment? And what are, let's say, put on hold? But let's start with your targets.
Here or from the European perspective?
Well, let's say Europe. Yeah.
Yes. So obviously, due to the kind of recession and the interest rates hikes in the recent year, actually more than a year now, investors tend to go back to safe havens. So if we look at Europe, it would be obviously the markets like Germany, the markets like Austria, Netherlands. The French investors would be investing in their own market. UK investors would be looking at the UK market. Obviously, Invesco has a pan-European presence, and we've so far done in this region over 1 billion of the logistic transactions historically. And we've always been very successful, and we've been always able to deliver superior returns to our investors. That's why our investors, we have the whole range of investors, starting from core through value add and up to opportunistic money. They've been always very happy with taking the risk. Obviously, the situation with the war in Ukraine changed that, but I would say only for a couple of months. And I think the sentiment would return if the interest rates were not to rise that much. But today, with this kind of interest rates positions, it is simply very difficult to underwrite any reasonable project. What is positive is that there is a massive rental growth as we speak in pretty much all locations, and as we work with our partner Panattoni on most of the developments, I'm sure they can confirm that as well. And this rental growth basically offsets any kind of changes in the valuation. So we are still positive, but obviously we are very selective and cautious these days, because we see that we don't know yet whether the bottom has hit or whether it is still to come. I believe that there will be reduced investors' activity generally in CE markets, just because of the cost of financing and the availability of this cost of financing.
Right. So you see, 2023, 2024 investors coming back to the market, except for the interest rate issue. Yeah.
More to 2024. We see what is happening in 2023. The first quarter figures have been published. This is the lowest investment activity, and let's face it. I don't think that there will be any massive change, because there is still an expectation that the ECB or Fed could potentially raise the interest rates, and this is a threat that all investors are taking into account. So they would rather buy bonds for a couple of months or a year, and then reconsider where to put and allocate money. We are also dealing with the denominators effect. Basically, most of the institutions, investment institutions, they do have over allocation at the moment towards real estate. This will balance out, I'm pretty sure, but I would say that probably next year is when we see increased activity. I think this year will be pretty
So
low.
it just comes down to it doesn't matter where the real estate is, it just needs to be more profitable than buying bonds.
If you look at real estate fundamentals, nothing has changed. The logistics sheds are still there. Okay, they are improving from the ESG perspective. The rental growth is there. The demand is very robust. The tenants pay rent. They want to develop. So fundamentals are still strong. It's just that the perception, the sentiment, and the financial market has changed.
Right. And Michał, interesting. On you just touched on it. Demand is strong. So I want to go to you with that. How are you seeing the market as a developer, and what do you see from the demand side?
Yes, we are observing a few trends caused first by COVID. Some of them was also strengthened by war, and war also bring us a additional issue. So third trend is changing just in time to just in case. So first COVID, then war, change or break some distribution chains. So the distribution and possible of transport and warehousing now is in another position. So many companies are considering to have the stronger sources and stronger stock and larger stocks in Europe. So this is from one hand increase the demand for a new logistics space. The second issue is also connected with this is nearshoring. That's company realized that the pandemic and now war can disturb supplying. So this is the essential. That's we can have the production of the components or final goods as close to the distribution as possible. So we are observing a strong interest in the new industrial space, new manufacturing. So looking for the condition on the market. From one hand, we are observing that the supply of a new products is limited due to the financial issue that we see and was mentioned. And from the another hand, we are still observing interest from the clients. That's of course one is the economic cycle, so some activities are getting lower, but the another are increasing, especially interest in the production and service space.
Hmm. So when you're looking at projects, so what I understand is you have the producers or you have the manufacturers that want it. You have the land, you have the projects. It's just less and less investors ready to invest in this project. Is that correct?
Yes, this is
Yeah.
this is correct.
Uh-huh. So what do you think is going to happen? I mean, will the producers just pay more rent and agree to longer, let's say longer terms that they need to make these projects happen, or where's the balance there?
Now market is looking for the balance. From one issue, we are observing rental growth when the market is looking for the stabilization. The second way is that the producer is also looking for the balance. How much they can pay for a new space? How can place their product on the market? So now the market is looking for the new balance.
Right. So, I mean, I always looked, I mean, from a few years ago, they were expecting, and I think a lot of these companies put it in their balance sheet or put it in their P&L, this is what we're going to pay for a new location. And now that 2-3 years down the road, they've kind of putting it together, they're finding they've got to pay a little bit more for the rent now, yes?
Yes.
So what is happening at that stage? Are they saying yes, let's go for it, or is it getting very difficult? Where are these projects? Are they changing their minds? What's happening from there?
Depending on the sector, depending on the type of the client. Some client decided, okay, we need space now, so we can accept higher rent, and they have to take the space. Another companies reflecting, well, we have to once again reconsider. We have to once again evaluate what we need, how we can proceed, how we can develop, how we can place our strategy in the future. So this is depending case by case.
Right. And I imagine with the manufacturers, it's easier because it's just less, as opposed to the logistics companies that are watching really every little grosh. Yeah, is that correct?
Yes, yes, exactly. It is easier to make a decision when you are producer, when you are manufacturing company, and this is easier to make a decision to choose the place for the new factory. Is a CE region or larger European region than the Asia.
Hmm. And okay, great. And going on to Anya Michel, can you tell us a little bit more about how you see the logistics developing over the next year? Because I mean, you're really looking at, especially as a port, long term, right? Long term, what's going to happen in the region and where are the clients? Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure, where are the clients? Right now, it's rather stabilized. Right now, we have a new client, container ships, new shipping line that moved recently from Gdynia to our port. And we will be, in our case, looking for the next development in 2025, only when we will open the new berth, because the cargo, of course, can come to the yard. But if we are thinking about new large ultra vessel ship, it just needs the space to be berthed,
Right.
and the large cranes to operate it.
And that really is the future, isn't it? The bigger the ships are, I mean, they're building them bigger now, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in the industry is thinking or looking where is the end of this. What is the constraint that could stop the growth of the vessels, because they are coming just bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
This year is, I think, a record year with the new ships coming from the shipyards. So we most probably will see a large volumes of ships, and those ships needs to be filled with cargo, and we will see what that would bring. Of course, our development is focused on gaining new client, and we are happy to focus on the construction and to bring that in first months of 2025. I believe that the next development for us will be rail, as I mentioned, because there is a big demand to reduce the CO2 emissions. And as any other business, we are trying to see what would be the future pains of our customers and try to solve them just like that.
So are you getting a lot of logistics companies or clients already asking about this? Oh, what is our ESG? What is the ESG policy? Or are they looking at this in real detail at the moment?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is like that, and it flows both ways, because we are also looking at our partners, also those who are doing the construction works. What is their safety culture? What kind of methods they are using? Also, the financing institutions. We are now also co-financed by EBRD. This is the second terminal that it's co-financed by EBRD, which also proves that we are a strong partner that can also fulfill those requirements. And this is a very strong trend.
Yeah, and EBRD, they have I think a lot of ESG requirements and more coming in the future, yes?
Yes, we expect that. But we are very happy to be recognized as a partner for them.
Right. So your team really has to watch the port, but also watch the ships coming in, right? If you have a real, let's say, inefficient ship coming in, this is going to be an issue, yes?
Yeah, of course. And there are, of course, the ratios of efficiency that our clients expect us to deliver. This is one thing, but we are also looking at something that we call master plans. We are looking at the plans for development for future. What we can do, for example, on our premises, if when we need a larger gate, when we need a larger rail. Also to, as you said, to be able to deliver with the efficiency that is expected from us.
Right. And Preston, I know you're doing some pre-due diligence for some investors on ESG issues. What are you seeing coming up, or what are some of the, let's say, I don't know, red flags or yellow flags that you're in, let's say, consulting with some of these investors?
To be honest, mostly what we've seen is when, and this isn't just in this region, but we've seen this happen in Europe, where a company gets caught out because their ESG or their due diligence was just box checking. And then when there's an issue and you have, regardless, it depends which authority is going to be taking a look at you or auditing you, they go in there and they find out that this really was just a box checking exercise, and you don't really have a good way to explain it. And so
No
we,
text behind,
there's
no,
nothing behind it. And we've seen this, especially manufacturers, when they get into environmental concerns. I mean, some of what's really going on there is not really represented
Mhm.
on paper, and that's where sometimes we'll get called in to take a look and see what the real situation is, and then they can quietly correct this before there is an issue, and that's one of the primary things.
Just like they do in the accounting, I guess. It's
Well, I mean,
ESG as well.
a
Yep.
box checking exercise can be very sincere, except until you get people that are in a hurry and they're just checking things off and trying to make it look good because there's pressure from the top,
All right.
and that happens a lot.
When the
Right.
bank says, yes, we're ready to finance, you want to make sure all the boxes are checked, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that.
And also, if we have any questions from the audience, we have Gosha here in the back with a microphone, or any questions or comments. So please feel free, raise your hand. We're happy to take any questions during the panel. Michał, how do you see things going forward in, let's say, in northern Poland or the Baltic area, Scandinavia? How do you see the development happening of warehousing? Whether it's warehousing, I guess in Poland it's more on the production side, and Scandinavia more on logistics. But let us know what you see as far as the market and what the needs are.
Yes, the market on the northern part of the Poland is developing quite well. Looking from the point that the market was 5 years ago, so the market was quite poor development. So looking for the increase on the market, on the percentage, how fast the market is growing, Tri-City market is one of the fastest growing, but of course the starting point was quite low. Now we are observing quite good demand for a new space in this market, and this is being driven by two reasons. First reasons is Tri-City is a very attractive price for relocation of the people.
Mhm.
So this agglomeration is growing. More young people is coming there, and the size of the agglomeration of the consumption. This is the one factor of the growings. The second is increase in the port, when this is the window for the world of the Tri-City, also of the Poland, and also of the other countries. So we have two trends. From one side, young growing agglomeration with a good perspective. From the second, port as accelerating. So now we are observing from the 5 years that the market every year is growing on a really good level, and even we have a turbulence like a COVID and war, we are observing still a strong demand for a new
Mhm.
space.
And Anya, back onto the investment. When I see that sometimes I know in the last 12 or 18 months we've seen some announcements from your company that you're investing in a bit in Italy, a bit in is it Spain and France? Spain and Italy, is that mainly it, and Portugal a bit? I can't remember, but is that sort of the target still?
Just those countries offer slightly better returns, and perhaps they are. I would compare them to sea.
Mhm.
And there are opportunities. You can find a plot. You can arrange the zoning pretty quickly compared to Germany or UK. Truly, obviously our core markets are still Germany, France, and UK, but it's simply very difficult to get access to the good sites and find a good partner and invest. That's why we're more active in those regions where we still believe that there is a potential. Yes,
Can do deals, yeah.
absolutely. So last week we have just closed two logistic JV partnerships, one in Alessandria in northern part of Italy, and the other one in Portugal near Lisbon. Again,
Right.
a huge development with a JV partner. So
And how about, as we're around the Baltics and talking about the Baltics, how do you see this region? Let's say I know it's not one
Yeah.
cohesive region, which is one of the problems,
Yeah.
but you have Scandinavia, you have the Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Nordics, and northern Poland, basically.
Yes, I mean, we are not yet active in Litva, Lithuania, and Estonia. We are active in Sweden, in Denmark,
Hmm.
and obviously in Poland. Again, it is a matter of couple of things. First of all, I still believe that in Poland we are quite in a comfortable position in terms of accessibility of land, accessibility of the manpower, qualified manpower, and the speed of the zoning permits to prepare the land for development. If I compare it with our developments in Scandinavia, in Sweden, or in Czech Republic, it takes simply much longer. All the regulatory and procedural process takes much longer. So that's why Poland has this massive potential, and we've just successfully developed, again with our partner, with Panattoni, and sold last year a fantastic projects near Gdańsk, over 110,000 square meters, I believe, and we've exited it to the American investor after the war has started. So there was still a pretty high interest in the logistics space and the logistic product as an investment. So I say I'm quite optimistic about the like Poland definitely as a development. Obviously, Scandinavia has slightly different regime, different requirements. There is more like e-commerce, logistic facilities. But we own one like a light production, which is performing very well. We have a 20-year lease there with the
In Scandinavia.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, in Mastra, and we're happy with this product. I think the issue that we are seeing across Europe more and more is the power grid, the access to the electricity. So, for example, the recent trends from UK around London is that simply developers are not getting the permits to develop logistics because the electricity grid is not capable of delivering more and more. So the power is a determinant where you can actually physically build, yes? And this trend continues. And I hope that we'll not have this case, this potential risk in here. Our grids are still okay-ish, although for the ESG reasons, they would need to be,
Hmm.
again, remodeled, refurbished, whatever. But I'm just bringing a totally different risks where I see them in the other European countries.
Yeah, I mean, very scary. I remember in the late 90s, you would get a lot of the Western European and American investors kind of laughing at Poland because they'd build a building and the lights would go dim and there was never enough electricity and they were kind of, making fun of Poland and the grid. And now it's really more the problems on I mean, just
UK, it's clearly a problem around London.
big issues, of just no electricity. Hmm.
If I may add on that, it will be even bigger issue because there are also EU regulations that should come into force, which will require ports to have cold ironing for ships, so supplying electricity so that a ship being berthed at port is not using fuel other than electricity, which in small or rough assumptions will need to supply power like to half of a city. Just for one ship. So that I'm sure will come also to the picture for Poland.
So are you guys planning, let's say, like even building mini grids for the I know there's not a lot of mini grids happening yet in Central Eastern Europe, but I imagine something like that you would need to supply your own electricity, yeah?
That's one idea, but of course this is the issue, or this is the task to be dealt by all parties. So city, port authorities, it's not decided who or which party will deliver or will be responsible for delivery, but for sure we are thinking about something like electrical master plan for our needs, because this is going to be hugely of importance.
Right. No, I can imagine they don't want ships coming in running on their own power, yeah, and you need to plug them in. So Preston, one of the things that Anya mentioned at the beginning was, as an owner of these, you're talking about some of these scams and things that are being transported that maybe are illegal. As an owner of a huge amounts of property, not just necessarily Invesco, but anybody that owns a lot of, really just like hands off. Everyone's paying the rent, everyone's happy. I mean, how do you make sure that you don't? How do you approach this with the board without getting fired? Let's say, as a I don't know. How do you make sure that your operation, especially if you have multiple locations, that actually nothing bad is going on or minimal? Let's say.
Okay, well, I think
What are the things to watch out for? Let's say.
we had a conversation with the board that was part of the board didn't want to hear anything because they were worried about the legal ramifications. Part of the board wanted to know everything, and they had a big fight with each other over this. Now, the thing you have to assume, though, is that there is something bad going on. When you have something of scale, it's impossible that there's not. And that's very hard to get through people's heads.
Well, it starts off small,
And I
right?
don't-
One person, two people. Yeah.
Start off small.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. I mean, when one question that I actually would expect to get is, okay, well, you put all this up on your presentation. Why would any of these illegal, whether it's narcotics or just any kind of stuff, why would it affect us? Why would it go to us? And the simple reason is there's so much of it that they don't have anywhere to store it.
Right.
They don't have anywhere to put it. So where do you want to put it? You want to put it in the warehouse of a manufacturer. Why? Because that's like a happy, safe place for that. Once it's in there, nobody's going to check it. You can move it. If you can get it into a modern logistics warehouse, even better.
Mhm.
Even better. And we will see guys come in and they will rent a small space, not even necessarily to put it in the warehouse, but they'll rent it just so that they can use it as this kind of hub in front of the warehouse on the same street. Now you say, does this pose a risk? Well, I was actually in a meeting with board members where a couple of guys, well, that's not our problem. It's not our risk. It's not really on our property yet. But the problem was the security guys took money that worked for them. They took money to allow this to happen.
Right. Mhm.
And so again, half the board was saying there's not a problem. Half the board was histrionic and worried. I'm not the lawyer.
I can understand both sides.
Well, I'm
know.
just the fact is this kind of thing is going on. It's going on all the time. So you just have to take the sort of we have a saying in our business that everyone lies all the time.
Mhm.
And you just have to look at it like that. And I know it sounds cynical, but you kind of have to vet people. You have to know what's going on. You have to watch what's going on, and you have to assume that you can't catch it all.
Right. But with the actual guys, the actual security guys, I mean, they're changing all the time. How do they?
Well, that's one of the problems.
Mhm.
That is one of the problems throughout the entire region. If you take a look at security companies, a lot of them have a very controversial past, and there's been a lot of changes. You'll deal with a group that suddenly you'll find out, well, they absorb these guys, they absorb those guys, and if you talk to them, you find out, well, who are the people that are doing this? They don't know.
Right.
They haven't been there very long. You'll see new faces. I'm not very impressed with any security company in the region, but that is where you got to start. That's where you got to start.
Okay, well, we're running a little bit out of time. So again, if there's any questions now or comments, raise your hand. We'd definitely be happy to take any of them. Michał, I think we kind of want to do a kind of, let's say, final comments, last pearls of wisdom. So maybe, Michał, we'll start with you and give us your maybe view on the future or whatever you would like to say that maybe we missed in this discussion.
Well, to summarize, we have one new trend, which is nearshoring, and the second, which is logistics have to be prepared for any case. This is what we have. We expect that the fundamental is healthy, so the requirements for the client are, of course, lower than 2 years ago, but still stable and strong, and depending on the market, but on many sub-markets are higher than supply. So this reflects the rental growth. Now, of course, there is an issue with the investment and financing availability, but this should change during next coming months, maybe next year. I don't know.
Mhm.
Probably next speaker will say more about this, about the financial issue. So this is the situation, and the trends. That's what we are expecting during the coming months. We think that the situation is now stable, and it should be growing in the industrial next year.
Right. Okay, great. Anya?
Clearly, logistic or industrial investments are one of the key topics for pretty much every institutional investor across the globe. Logistics and residential, two trends.
Mhm.
Offices, people are kind of not sure. Hotels, after pandemic, it's difficult. Other asset classes, pretty difficult. So clearly, logistic and PRS are the themes. And obviously, the beauty is whenever you are able to create the products for those end investors, because the interest will be there. We are in a moment of time when the financing and maybe the appetite has slowed down, and there is a bit of hesitation, and there is a bit of wait and see. But this will change. I'm thinking about next year rather than a couple of next months, but that's my personal view. And we will see investors coming back and buying credit products, because all of that is supported by the very strong demand, tenants willing to extend, expand, happy to pay more rent, because if you look at their balance sheet, overall, again, the rent constitutes 5, 6, 7, maybe % of their balance sheet.
Yeah,
So
for the production, it's not
it is
much.
not major driver. I think the major driver is the location, the accessibility to work, the workforce, and the quality of the stock. And obviously, ESG will play a fundamental role. So it's no longer about BREEAM.
Mhm.
It's about CREM. It's about decarbonization of the grid. It's about on-site solution for energy production. And with the logistic facilities, it is fairly easy. So it has to be embedded in the whole construction cost, and any production facility that we are constructing these days across Europe, like photovoltaics, is a must. It's just not even a consideration. It's a must. It's
Mhm.
a part of the product. So ESG will also play a fundamental role for the banks. So the financeability of the product would very much depend on the credentials, and banks are becoming more scrutinized on how they do the ESG checklists. Yes, so they are getting more sophisticated here. So if you have the good product, ESG oriented, I'm sure the investors will come back.
Right. And if you have something, if you have let's say a project that's light production, and they've put up the voltaics, what percentage of the voltaic or the energy can actually run the plant?
I'm not sure about light production, because it is very much depending on the energy consumption. I can tell you about the typical logistic facility where you can secure 50 to 60% of the requirements, on-site requirements, through the photovoltaics.
So
If
quite a
you're-
lot. Yeah.
Quite a lot. If
Mhm.
you're able to smartly do additional heat pumps and some other solutions, perhaps you can get to maybe not 100%, but close to 100% of the renewable energy. We're also in discussions with the power purchase agreements with a couple of operators to ensure that we really buy the green energy. So there are solutions, and logistic facilities as a real estate product is quite easy. It's much easier to do that compared to for example, to the office tower in the city center. Yes.
Yeah, no place for the photo. You also, I know we're talking about the Baltics, but you mentioned quickly in the last time about Czech Republic and not being able to get building permits or zoning. And I mean, I can't even remember the last time I saw a press release where someone got zoning for anything in the Czech Republic. How about Ostrava? Is that actually working for logistics, or is that over too?
I think any good located next to the highway facility in Czech Republic would work, because it's a kind of a pretty small country. It's just that the zoning take ages.
Seems
there.
like it takes about a decade to
And
get
yes,
something.
yes,
yeah.
and that's not only us. It's
Mhm.
like every developer that you're talking to. If you speak to the office developers, they are working on the permits for
Yeah,
decades.
like a
It's,
generation.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's what I thought because we're listening to the news every day, and I just hadn't come across anything from Czech Republic for a while of someone got a building permit. Anya, any?
So with everything already almost said, I maybe start with a different angle. So if you would like to see this ecosystem of container terminal, logistic warehouses, and also cooperation of the city and ports, you are very welcome to come and see how right now every location in Port of Gdańsk looks like. If you haven't been there in 2 years, I'm sure you will be quite nice surprised.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, we definitely like to come and do a little bit of filming of it over the time. And Preston, we'll wrap it up with a happy quote from you to.
I probably said enough. I would just say that, look, don't be afraid to run a security audit. We can help you with that. Don't be afraid to be, don't be passive. Go ahead, plan to make changes. Make sure that what is going on in your business, whether it's logistics, manufacturing, is what you plan to go on, right?
Yeah, it never hurts to do an audit and just kind of wake everybody else up in that's operating there. Yes. So, well, I'd like to thank all the panelists. If we could have a round of applause, thank you for your time and effort on this panel. We'd like to invite everyone. Where our next panel is on, of course, on office retail PRS, which we were talking about. But we wanted everyone to take a little bit of break, get coffee, do a little bit of networking, and we'll see you back here in 20 minutes for our next panel. So enjoy the coffee break, and of course enjoy the weather a little bit outside. And we will see you back in 20 minutes.